Welcome to Cybersecurity Sense, a weekly podcast providing updates and insight into the latest in cybersecurity, brought to you by LBMC Information Security. Now, here's your host.
Hi, I'm Bill Dean, Senior Manager here at LBMC Security. Thank you for joining us again. Today, we're going to discuss the key differences between targeted attacks and opportunistic attacks. This topic is something we discuss often here at LBMC, both internally and externally when we're giving presentations and talks, because it's very important to understand the differences between the two. These thoughts are further conveyed by a post from Kayla Elliott on the Tech Talk site. The post is titled, Targeted Attacks or Untargeted Attacks, which is most common? The link will be in the show notes, of course. There are some very good points in the article and I actually want to add to some of those in this podcast. While the article references untargeted attacks and is applicable, we like to refer to these as opportunistic attacks. Opportunistic attacks are not focused on an organization nor their specific information. These attacks are more focused on vulnerabilities and computing power to conduct other types of attacks. Some common examples would be remote desktop services or terminal services available to the internet. This is an opportunity to gain access to the systems and internal network to perform many nefarious acts. We see this many times in our incident response practice. They'll do things such as install Bitcoin miners or manually deploy some ransomware. They may actually use the systems to obfuscate the attacks that they're conducting in a more targeted fashion on other organizations. Maybe they want to take over a mailbox to send spam emails to infect the internal systems with ransomware, internal and external to the organization. Phishing emails to gather mailbox access for future phishing attempts just to get credentials. Previously identified vulnerabilities that maybe can now be exploited for benefit of future attacks. Web application platforms vulnerable to specific types of attacks. Essentially, opportunistic attacks are focused on the benefit of compromising your systems in their endeavors. This can be, as I mentioned, mining Bitcoins, getting a ransom payment, sending trusted phishing emails, harvesting credentials, stuff like that. The point that I want to emphasize here is that they are not focused on you or your organization as far as the specific data types or the value of the data that you have. If you don't provide what they seek, they'll just move on to an organization that will meet their needs. In essence, as the referenced article summarizes, what we call opportunistic attacks are when hackers have no specific vertical, business, or person they are attacking. However, while we call it opportunistic, the impact still can be very, very serious. The organization, while it's not targeted, may often still face potential business outages and ransom payments from the ransomware infections, potential brand issues when spear phishing emails requesting credentials are sent to clients and prospects, additional brand issues if a website is defaced or infected with malware, potential disclosure issues if mailboxes are accessed that may contain personally identifiable information or EPHI or even payment information. System performance issues from malware infections that are mining Bitcoins. This is, if your system is compromised, believe it or not, this is one of the best case scenarios is to turn some of your systems into Bitcoin miners. Now, let's talk about the more targeted attack. Let's begin by disclosing that I am not a motivational speaker. I've been leading incident response engagements for more than a decade. In a targeted attack, your systems are not the objective. Your data is. You have something they want. It can be anything from EPHI to intellectual property, trade secrets, financial information, merger and acquisition information, etc. This information is specific to your organization, and the attackers seek it. If the attacker group cannot find a vulnerability, they do not quit and move on. You are the target, and they do persist. They do not quit easily. These are the more high-profile attacks that we've heard about for years and years, such as RSA or the Heartland breach or Equifax or Target, no pun there with the Target, Home Depot, and thousands of clear defense contractors that we will never hear about because they do not have a duty to disclose, and numerous other entities that also do not have to disclose publicly. For instance, law firms, they do not have to disclose if they're targeted and merger and acquisition information is obtained. They may have to disclose to their clients, but not to the general public. This is where the term APT, or Advanced Persistent Threat, came from. The Advanced Persistent Threat does not concede when their first attempt fails. They continue until they do succeed in meeting their objective. Most defenses depend on known bad signatures. They're easily identifiable. These attackers develop new malware and attack approaches that have never been previously seen. For this reason, static protections oftentimes are not going to stop them. They will exploit vulnerabilities not previously even known. We refer to these as 0 days. They will compromise the networks of small companies that are soon to maybe be acquired by the larger company. When the infected networks join the clean networks, now the entire network is infected. A good analogy I like to use with this is for those that have children and you've taken your child to the pediatrician, they have a well room and a sick room for a reason. You don't want sick kids in the well room, otherwise everyone gets sick. This is the same if you have an infected network that now connects to a larger network. This approach has produced many of the large data breach case studies that we've cringed after reading. Now, I'll be honest that many organizations do not fall into this category. I will also disclose that many are vulnerable because they do not know that they are in this category. You may not know that you're being targeted by someone else. Some basic questions to figure out if you're in this category are, do we have information that is valuable to nation states? Do we have information that cannot be obtained somewhere else? Are we part of a supply chain for a valuable product? Do we have patents pending or engineering designs on a new product? I'm going to place a link in the show notes that clearly outlines information that a specific nation state seeks. Specifically, it's China. I've used a slide with this information in my incident response talks for years. Over the past year or so, they've exchanged the term materialize, as I'm air quoting, with R&D numbers. For the longest time, they just said they wanted to materialize this information, which I interpret as find it wherever you can find it and get it, even if you're breaking into other people's networks, our networks. Make no mistake, they seek this information from us. Do you have any of the information they seek? If so, you are a target. So some takeaways, opportunistic and target attacks are not the same. While the objectives are different, the impact can still be devastating if they succeed. All companies are subject to opportunistic attacks. But do you know if you are subject to a target attack based on the data that you generate or maintain? Routine vulnerability assessments and penetration tests, along with social engineering tests, will help build your resilience against opportunistic attacks. In addition, stay abreast of vulnerability disclosures between your security tests just for protection. If a new vulnerability comes out and you have that technology, work to patch it as quickly as you can. Targeted attack protection builds on that baseline of a security posture with what we call purple teaming exercises. These are going to ensure that your security controls are effective. The new malware control that you have, or the endpoint control, or the perimeter controls, are they working the way that you think that they're working? The more that we conduct purple team exercises, we find that the controls oftentimes aren't behaving the way that they thought they were. On the flip side, sometimes they determine that they have a control in place that they didn't even know would behave the way that it behaved. So another thing that you can really do once you kind of move from the purple teaming is adversary simulation exercises. These are going to help you understand how well you can defend yourself against a targeted attack and assist in improving your controls. In closing, thank you for listening. Tune in next week for our next episode. As always, if you have a particular topic you would like to hear in this podcast, please contact me at bdean@lbmc.com. To learn more about LBMC Security and the services we provide, please visit lbmcsecurity.com.